When I started looking for you, I discovered that busking video in Austin that your friend had shot, and you were you were playing on the streets, and you got busted that day by the police.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That had happened a couple times before I just kind of gave up busking downtown and started building my own home studio, uh, with a girlfriend in a house in Round Rock. So kind of things things work together for for good for sure to that extent.
I'm fascinated by buskers. I'm fascinated by people who actually move from busking to a career, like writing, singing, recording, all those things, and you've done all of that. How well did it prepare you for what you're doing now?
I probably owe much of my success to busking and just thrusting myself into situations where the lights are always on and you got to perform, and so it kind of helped to develop a certain level of confidence that I take into the studio, or I've taken overseas with the Black Pumas, and as we visit some of the local venues here, it's just kind of it's almost easier to perform for a larger audience because they actually came to see the show.
When you knew some of your early songs, like for example, "Colors," you were busking that song, yeah,
I was busking colors, and I had,
and "Fire."
probably a few songs. Maybe I could count on one hand how many covers I knew. I utilized the experience that was busking from Santa Monica to Seattle to Austin, Texas. I used that experience to write songs and to engage people with my own stuff, my own writing, my own voice. It was important for me to be able to find, you know, that engaging tone that was mine.
In your head, did you hear it the way it turned out? Could you have imagined it was going to sound like that?
Like what?
Like what we hear now, what we know
Oh
now?
man, no, not in 100 years. Not in 100 years, man. I used to sing a lot softer. It was still very soulful, kind of like a neo soul folk kind of thing. I was really into Bob Dylan, Neil Young. I enjoy listening to the Beatles, and so a lot of my listening is a bit eclectic as far as like old pop music and soul music goes. But by the time I met Adrian and I had the opportunity to work with him, I was super excited because of his track record, being that he jammed with Prince, and he's had a few different bands where they saw some success. So I was in a place where I wasn't necessarily focused on reaching out to people who were reaching out to me to get me to collaborate on
Sure,
something,
sure.
because at a certain point it's just like, if sometimes you have to do it yourself to get what you want. And so I was kind of in that mindset when Adrian hit me up, and I let the email sit for a week before I got back to him. And when I did, he sent me some music. I really loved the music. I thought that it was really cool. I had no idea how to sing on it. So I would recall Otis Redding, guys like Wilson Pickett, thanks to the, musicianship of some of my esteemed colleagues here in Austin. They were like, oh yeah, just go back to Wilson Pickett and Marvin Gaye and Al Green and, those guys, and really like, use it to show the full spectrum of your voice. And so working with Adrian was me learning how to, I guess, do my best Otis Redding impression.
But you didn't want it. Well, I mean, you wanted to move beyond just sounding like Otis Redding, if you can. If you have the gift to do that, more importantly, you had to find your own voice.
Exactly. And I thank busking for that, because a lot of people sing the same songs, and there's busking musicians all over the place everywhere. And so it's kind of easy at that rate to kind of get overlooked, and kind of a competitive spirit myself. And, I welcome the challenge, and I just used the experience to really connect with source, looking to feel into my own truth. And so I think that kind of translated over into like working with Adrian. And just so happened that for my efforts were and his were just a perfect match together. So, we're really thankful for this connection for sure.
When you played that first gig, where was it again? It was I wrote it down here. When you played that very first gig that you ever played on stage in front of an audience, and you walked off stage and you could hear the response coming from the crowd, from the room, what did that feel like? You looked at each other, you had a conversation.
Yeah, we had we had a small conversation. Most of my conversations with Adrian are relatively short and to the point. I think that we work pretty well in that way. We don't cross too much hairs, but we just kind of perfectly exist on either side of the spectrum as far as like sociability goes. But I remember the response being, we were very surprised. We were like, whoa, this is cool. And I approached it with a bit more confidence than I usually do, being that I was busking and or playing at a coffee shop, really fighting to engage the people with my own abilities, that when I had a 5, 6 piece band behind me, it gave me a bit more confidence. And it was like, you know, C-Boys threw a party for me. That's what it felt like. So I'm like, wow, I'm gonna really go for it and use these nerves to do a good job on these songs that I truly love. And I just remember Adrian kind of discouraging his wife into coming at first because he wasn't very confident. He's like, well, this might suck for a few weeks. Maybe wait till the end of the month to show up. And she showed up to the first one, as did a lot of our friends, and we got such a good response. Where in Austin, sometimes people kind of like come to venues like this and are super cool. But for us, it was very receptive. And I remember having a conversation with Adrian, like really feeling his nerves even going in. I'm like, you nervous? And he said, yeah, I'm nervous. I said, me too. And once we got off the stage, you can kind of feel that nervous energy kind of subside, and we approach each other to agree on the fact that we thought that we had something.
What was the something? What was it?
A visceral
Was
electricity.
is a feeling?
It was electric, man. It was like the music gods decided to use our vessels,
Yeah.
to create something and say something with all of our experience and exposure to life in general, as well as the music industry. It felt like when you first shake hands with somebody, or you meet someone for the first time, and it's a good thing. It felt like love at first sight, for sure, that first live performance. Obviously, we worked a few things out and rounded out the dynamic of the show eventually, as I added more of my songs to the material. And we worked it out. I remember we practiced like maybe twice before the gig, once or twice before the first gig. And um, it was fun. We had a lot of fun.
Take me to the recording studio, Eric. While I have the time that I have,
Okay.
um, you finally get a chance to be on the other side of the glass.
Yeah.
Um, you've been in studios before. It was never you in the studio. Now you're there and you're singing in that microphone, and they play it back for the first time for you with a whole band in behind you. Did you get a tingle?
Man, I got to tell you that I got a tingle when Adrian first sent me the studio recorded music in the first place. I think that he produced the music with the possibility of it not having a singer on it. He tried to make the music sound as appeasing as it could without a vocalist, and he
Yeah.
finally decided to use one. And so when he showed me the music that he initially had, it felt so cinematic, and I felt like I could kind of close my eyes and see the song write itself a bit. And I think a lot of that was just nervousness too, just feeling into where's this man coming from. Like, I've never sang on anything like this. How do I approach singing like this? And it just, I wrote to it what like in my own way. I didn't really, study like soul song structure or anything like that. I just kind of worked with the canvas that Adrian gave me and tried to
Yeah.
paint something that was relevant.
Fast Cars. You did that as a busking song, I'm sure.
Yes, I did. Fast Car was one of the first major songs that I learned on my way to American Idol. I was going to, audition for American Idol season 11. I actually made it to Hollywood Week, and Fast Car was the song that I had learned just upon taking the trip. And I didn't make it far enough along to actually get to play it, but I was thankful to be able to learn it because that was a song that really connected with people when we were busking. And one thing that I'll say about walking into Adrian's studio, last thing here is that, like, I think that, it's like walking into a place where, the other part, your counterpart has a lot of respect for the music. You have respect for the music. And so there was just this unspoken communication that we had. And I remember doing, we recorded Fire and Black Moon Rising, the first recording session. And pretty much, the first couple of takes, I said, I'm very in my head about the inflection and diction and pronunciation that Adrian sometimes has to tell me, like, no, man, like that one's okay. Like that one's all right.
That's cool. I love that schooling. And Fire. You've
Fire.
always Fire. You've been singing Fire quite a while, right?
Yes, I've been singing Fire since we started. That was the first song that we'd recorded. And yeah, that's the lyrics are pretty much about a girlfriend of mine at the time who had Lyme disease, and kind of wasn't very good about asking for help. And I was kind of writing a song to encourage her to call on me if you need me, I got you. I know that's a hard thing, and it's a big struggle. And then I guess Adrian was inspired by Ghostface Killer and the production, and for the most part, was really interested in uh, really integrating that hip hop uh, beat, adding that onto like retro soul almost. That it kind of just kind of made a cool new thing.
Okay, I may be running out of time here. Somebody's going to come and pull me away, I'm sure. Here's the deal. Um,
All right.
I saw a quote that you gave, I think, to a print journalist, that you always felt that you knew you were going to make it, that this was going to your destiny. What set that in motion? Was it from family out?
Definitely. My grandparents were missionaries, and my mom and my uncle, both uncles and aunt, they were very much involved in the performative aspect of the service, um, where it's just always been in my family to be inclined to music. I never really started singing or playing a guitar for that matter till, like, you know 2 months before my high school graduation. I turned 18, and my little brother bought me a guitar, and I just started playing and writing my own songs and just stretching as far as I could, to get somewhere. And as far as knowing within myself that it's going to be okay, like I'm going to make it, was, the point where that happened was I was kind of at a low point on the Santa Monica Pier, where I was busking and trying to figure that out, and kind of going through the downs of not being recognized and kind of overlooked, and coming to terms with my place in this world, where I just started to look at the sun and look at things that are love, that is always here for me. And in that happiness that I would get in my writing and in my performance, I saw a major difference in people's reaction to want to stay and hang around, that they didn't have someone completely bantering to them. I was really going through, like, I was healing myself really, in the process. And I just felt like it was undeniable for me, and that something comes from my heart that has a good chance of touching someone else's.
Beautifully done, Eric. Thank you. What's the future look like? I mean, I know you're going to go back on the road when you can, whatever the new normal is.
Yeah.
What does the rest of the year look like? What does 2021 look like for you?
Sure. Yeah. And by the way, if we go over 10 minutes, that's fine. I made you wait, so I'll
Thank you.
yeah, yeah. um, the rest of 2020 and 2021, I really wish that I had some solid info on that. A lot of things look extremely tentative right now, and we're in conversation with management about it, but nothing that I know of has been set.
Okay. Well, you can still record and you can still write songs. Are you writing songs?
Oh yeah, most definitely. This computer sitting on a new Whirly I bought a new Whirly, and I'm so excited because I've never owned one. I'm learning how to play keys. So that's kind of a line from
That's cool.
possibly the new album. Yeah, there's instruments all over this place, man. But I'm getting ready to move to California. I'm thinking I'm gonna make a move to California for about 6 months to a year. Really, kind of get away from
Yeah.
the whole idea that I'm like this cool kid. Maybe a bigger pool with people who have no idea who this guy is. I feel like it'll be really grounding to be there. So um, that's something that is happening.
I should have asked right at the beginning. I should have asked about you and your family, your mom, your brother, your uncle. How are they getting through? How are they getting through this whole pandemic?
They're getting through all right, man. I think that the small community of Alamogordo, New Mexico,
Yeah,
that we've been there for an extended period of time.
it's
We
a
have a
good place to be.
pretty good network of support. So I think that they're doing well enough, and we're always talking on the phone and in collaboration in how we want to kind of bring things together even more tightly.
In that, by the way, I'm going to come full circle. In that video that I saw of you when I first saw you in Austin, and you're busking on the street, in your backpack, you had an Ernest Hemingway book.
Yeah.
Which one was it?
I forget the one it was, man. It was about the fisherman, the
Oh yeah, Old Man in the Sea.
old man of the sea, man. That one it really hit me. I was like, whoa, I gotta read more of these, man. And so I like to read things like that are that are really deep, like Paulo Coelho, books and messages and stories like that kind of spur songwriting. And it's about growth, man. It's about being a better person myself. And the music is secondary, but
Sure.
when I'm committed to the story, and I'm committed to my own heart and soul, it just comes through. And I have no idea how the next record is going to sound. It's sounding a little bit different so far. We have a lot of different ideas, and I think it's reflective of where we are at the moment, which is going to be interesting, what we see.
I love a quote from you that says, when you were busking, you wanted to make people respect you and have value for yourself. I think well, you were on the outside of the trailer at that point. Uh,
Yeah, actually, I was living at a studio.
well, you climbed over the fence.
The back gate was it was janky. It was kind of broken, but I was living at a studio, in the back of a studio for a few $100 a month. It was probably like my first place that I had pretty much like on my own, to the extent that I'm in the backyard and in a space that is completely mine, where I'm not sharing a roommate. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was Toy Car Studios in Austin, Texas. I used to stay in the RV, and I paid that money, and I'd have free access to the studio anytime I'd want. And eventually, I moved in with a girlfriend.
Is it possible? Two questions. Is it possible to explain what the last 2 years has been like for you? You end up at the Grammys. You got your family. You got your mom with you. You got your brother. I mean, you're touring. You're recording. We're all calling, beating down the door, saying how let me talk to him. How much has your life changed, or has it not? I mean, you know.
Quite a bit, man. Quite a bit. If I can be grounded to say that being at the Grammys this year, and um, getting a lot of recognition from amazing musicians, like from Tribe Called Quest to
Wow.
Dave Chappelle, and was that uh, the Roots Jam right before the
Oh
Grammy.
yeah.
And I remember Questlove really enjoyed the Pumas as well as Black Thought. I remember after doing the Jimmy Fallon thing, he comes up to me and he gives me he pounds me, and he goes he said, what did he says? He said something Brody. He called me Brody. I was like, wow, Black Thought just called me Brody. So you killing it, Brody. I was like, all right, Black Thought knows me. So those things have been really cool, and we've obviously seen a lot of attention overseas with different publications reaching out, and so it started to feel more like a job, like it feels like an elevated job for me. It's busking on the 1,000th level, and but like my blessing and my curse, I'd have to say, is that I'm usually I'm here. I'm here with the music, and I don't really think about everything else. And so
Okay.
a lot of things that have happened, I felt them happening, but I wasn't really internalizing them to the degree that it took me away from the music. So sometimes it's a little hard for me to talk about it, but it's been a lot that's gone on. I mean, I still live in a house with roommates, and so I'm focused on trying to take my life to the next level,
Hmm.
as far as just my immediate needs go. But it's all about the music, man. So it's hard for me to you know, recollect all the craziness, even though it has been crazy. I have been so under a lot of pressure, and with the times and everything that's going on, it's insane. I'm almost numb by the experience that music is kind of has been my safe haven.
Actually, the key word you said there was grounded. As long as you say grounded, you're good. You're good. You're good. I mean,
Right.
that comes from family. And I'm going to come full circle. I'm going to go back to that busking tape that I was so impressed with at Congress and 6th Street in Austin. And that policeman busted you for busking. Fine. You can't busk on, never mind. But 2 years later, you and I, when we turn on our television sets, we're watching situations on the streets with police and Black Americans, and I'm thinking, man, oh man, how much has changed in those 2 years. I mean, if it were today and you were out there, you'd be concerned. It would be a different situation. What's happened, and are you worried about it?
I'll tell you what, man. When in that scene where I'm getting busted by the cops, like I was really was very how should I say it? Um, there's definitely a bit of trepidation in dealing with the police. At that time, especially that I did a lot of my performance on the street,
Yeah.
and in a lot of places, there's sound ordinances, and busking and buskers can, almost to the city, become a bit of a nuisance in their attitude to the sound and presence, uh, from the city's eyes anyway. But what I realize at thinking back to like a little bit of that trepidation that I felt when I was dealing with the police officers, I could feel that feeling coming from a lot of different things, remembering a lot of things, and maybe even being affected by ancestral things that I might not have at the time been able to kind of fully conceptualize where that fear came from in the first place. But um, and as I exist now, and as I've, it's been a few years now, maybe more than it's been like since that incident, it's probably been like 3.5 years. Um, since that incident, I've been learning a lot. I've been learning a lot about myself. I've been learning a lot about, you know, people in reflection to myself. One of the biggest things that I walk with, like my mantra is that like my pain and your pain is not separate. And, just with that basic, notion, you know, just different doors to learning has definitely opened up for me and has really empowered me to not be a victim, because I'm not a victim.
Yeah.
I came here with a little bit of money, not very much support, from California, busking with not even all my like essentials I won't go into. And I'm on top of the world, so to speak. And I've never made it anywhere by walking with the mentality that the next guy is trying to keep me down.
Yep.
I'm from a family where I feel like you know being around different people of different walks of life was a big uh, was a big focus. And so um, in that, I realized, like, when I look into the situation, like with George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and these different Black people who are facing violence, civil unrest, in the streets, I realized that in my search in that I feel like it's not, in a lot of ways, I don't know that if I would call it 100% a race issue, or a hate of a specific race issue, because stuff like that, it has happened to like a lot of people of different colors, of different walks of life. I've seen videos of people really pleading and submitting and doing exactly what they're told, and it ending very badly for
Yeah.
them. And I'm talking about the white guy who's the janitor at whatever building that was. I'm not sure what the situation was uh, completely, but I just realized that, hey, I have the power to control the narrative that I take in and control what I put out. In a lot of the stuff that is happening, to be honest, I really haven't posted much of anything, because there's just so much information out there, and I'm feeling so much. And like I said earlier, it's been a bit numbing, to say the least. But I'm using this moment to just kind of put my best foot forward and see how I can show the world and help people, not just speak out for Black people, and or speak out in a way that is in some sort of a victimhood, because like I'm a reflection of a God. I'm a perfect reflection of God. That's what grandma always used to say. So that's how I move, and that's how I treat people. I treat people as if they are me, and that's the goal. And the doors, it's limitless. How far you can go and what you can achieve, the things that you want. You'd be surprised that just kind of coming out of that and being honest with yourself and accepting everyone as yourself. You might just move somewhere with no money, busking on the street, and win a Grammy in a couple of years. That's insane to me, but it's just how good God is, man. I guess Source is awesome.
Take care of yourself
Thank you
and
so much.
enjoy the ride, Eric.
Thanks, man. Have a good one.
Thank you.
You got it.
Wonderful. Wonderful.